The what?
Actually, you know, it's not.
Oh, I just had it written down. It's always in my phone, as it said. Okay, well, I automatically to make sure I don't. All right, it is now 6 p.m. We will begin the work study session for the Adrian City Commission for February 5th, 2024. Roll call, please. Mayor Need, present. Commissioner Benke.
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Robert. Present. Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry, I believe is absent. Yes. Yes, and Commissioner Betts.
Present.
All commission members present with the exception of Commissioner Castleberry. I will now hand it over to our city administrator, Greg Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The first presentation tonight is from some folks who are interested in doing performance of Shakespeare at Russell Park. Commissioner Gauss and Jeremiah and I met with them a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back. Miller was there as well. And they were interested in sharing their thoughts with you as well. I mean, it's something that they can just do pursuant to our Parks Department's rules, but I think they might maybe ask for some relief on the fees that we otherwise charge for renting the pavilion down there. So I don't know who wants to
Stephen
start.
Kersey and John McNaughton are here.
Yeah. Whoever wants to start, you've been introduced and you can tell us what you got in mind.
Okay, we just talk from here?
Yep.
That's where we are, okay.
Wherever
We
you
do
can
have,
see the most of us.
A little,
Okay.
okay, one sheet. So Steve and I walk every day almost, and we go through the park quite a bit, and every time we walk by that stage, we think, oh, it's perfect for Shakespeare. So that started the seed. About 3 years later, we came up with, finally said, well, let's try to do this. So we're planning on doing a Midsummer Night's Dream in August is the dates we're looking at right now. There was some mention that might, is this louder now?
A little louder. Thank you.
That it might conflict with, yeah, that it might conflict with the first Friday. And so we have another date that could work that wouldn't do that. So I don't know if that would be an issue, but if it is, we're willing to talk about that. I guess the reason we're here is to see what kind of support the city does have available to help us with this venture. At this point, we're just in the planning stage. We don't have any money. We're working toward fundraising and things like that. So we're just seeing where we stand and where we're going. I guess that's the main thrust. That's pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and the sheet is pretty much has where we are, what we talked about. I don't know if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them.
When we met with you, you had a person with you who had experience doing this. Is she still part of your
Yes.
Yes, she's on our
She's on here for marketing,
marketing? Is
because I
that?
know her.
And she's done this at the Arb in Ann Arbor and also in Livonia.
That's right.
Yeah, she was an actor in the R, but in Livonia, she was the director of the production.
Okay.
But that's a little different situation because in Livonia, the city of Livonia sponsors their Shakespeare in the Park. And so she was working for the city of Livonia as in that capacity as directing and putting together that production. So we want to, for us, John and I are old theater people. We've been to Roswell for years. We've done a lot of things, I've been in educational theater for years. We've done a lot. Putting on the play is not our issue so much. It's all the infrastructure around it that we're concerned about how we put all that together. We think we can do it, but probably will need some help.
Now would be the time to ask for that help if there are certain things that you think the city could do that would get you to where you need to be. These are the folks who make those decisions.
Well,
Just by way of background too, Greg mentioned the meeting that we had with Jeremiah and everything, and logistical support is available from Jeremiah and the Parks Department, so we've already talked about that and appreciative of that. There's gonna be some fundraising that goes on. I've already talked to the Community Foundation about setting up a 501(c)(3), so that people can make contributions in the fundraising effort. So, and I think they've been very careful not to schedule what they want to do in conflict with the Croswell. So that's, they don't want to do it, you know, they don't want to do anything to disrupt that schedule, but hopefully we'll get many of the same patrons that the Croswell had shown up at the park. It's going to be a free venture, right?
Right.
Correct.
Is there any concern, Jeremiah, with the construction schedules or timelines?
No, so we're gonna be kicking off the finishing repairs and things of that nature that we are doing down at Island. We're looking to kick off as soon as the weather breaks, so on this time frame, I'm actually excited because that'll be a great time to kind of really show off the renovations and things we're going to do and finish up at Island Springs. So, great.
The one challenge we talked about when we met is parking, of course. Folks getting down to where the stage is. Do you have any further thoughts on that?
Well, a little
Did you reach out to the
discussion.
County at all regarding the use of the parking lot?
No,
I had a conversation with Commissioner Collins tonight about that, and he said he'll talk to Kim, but he didn't think that was gonna be a problem at all. Right?
There's actually no reason why. Because we keep the county parking lots. During those times
right,
and will be used.
right. Yeah.
With the budget amendment, we're looking at $300,000 almost coming in from rhino forfeitures.
That's,
And would that be used?
that's not ours to use.
Oh, it can't be used, okay.
We keep those in trust for their operation.
Opioid settlement funds,
Potentially, I don't know that they are available for this purpose, because there are limited purposes to those. You know, if we're talking about something that would be generally available, I mean, besides obviously fund balance.
But at this point,
But-
we're just talking about waiving fees.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an ask for anything other than fee waiver, but if there were, we're probably gonna get more marijuana excise tax revenue this year than we budgeted. We're looking for things that are likely to be over budget.
I guess our thought, the comment that I do, we're happy to accept anything the city can do to help and assist us in this endeavor. Like, we've already had talked with Jeremiah, who has talked about using certain, like a vehicle or something, those are great. Anything financially, like waiving the rental fee of the space would be also great. But, I mean, we're gonna do it regardless whether we waive the fee or not, but it would be great if you would waive that fee. We'll take anything you guys can give us to help make this a reality. We think that it can be an exciting cultural event for the city that could hopefully, possibly be something that would be done every single year. Adrian does not do this, but a lot of cities across America do have Shakespeare productions in the summer outside in the park, in a park of some sort. We have the perfect location at Trestle Park. That stage is perfect. The lawn in front of it is perfect. We want to utilize that and see what happens.
I see you have stage rental on there. Is there some additional stage that you would need, or was that what you figured it would cost about?
Yeah, around $100 a day.
And really just to kind of add some context to what they're talking about, really when we're talking the fees, obviously the parks, any city park is open to anyone to use at any time. It's strictly because we were talking about that there's gonna be some situations leading in the days up that we're going to need to stage equipment and put the area, so we would, in this context, kind of be closing it down and restricting access, so that's where the fees come in, so that's where, you know, this is something easy on our end to kind of assist in kind of cording off the area. We talked about a couple of enclosed trailers that we have that we could set potentially on the backside on Grand Street right there to allow costumes or anything like that to be stored right there, so that would kind of, you know, the parks contributing to this overall idea, so.
We also mentioned the possibility of a tent being in one of those positions in the back, be used as a place for changing or storage, temporary tent rented. All possibilities.
When were you thinking of doing the plays? Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon?
Yeah,
Sunday
Friday,
afternoon?
Saturday, Sunday, during daylight hours.
Friday and Saturday, right now, we're thinking of a 6:30 show time, so that it's still light, and by the time the show is over, it's still light. And then a matinee on Sunday, probably a 3 o'clock show.
And whether there are thoughts if we are
We,
rained out.
we keep going back and forth. If we try to reserve sound equipment and things like that for weather dates, this cost of sound goes up.
Yep.
We've talked about, we have Adrian High School, their stage, they've agreed to let us rehearse there, hold auditions there. And maybe they could hold their space available if we decided we wanted to move it because of rain.
We do have First Fridays thing that night, and the committee has a theme of Night at the Movies. Which, we could tie in with Shakespeare in the Park. We could do a Shakespearean spin-off of the movie, maybe possibly that night. Obviously, parking in that would be the issue. But I don't think that it would be an issue. I'm speaking for one person for the First Fridays committee, not sure that
It'd
would
just
be.
be a sort of an add-on, added benefit of that night.
Right, possibly we could promote it along with First Fridays.
Mhm.
Again, I'm just one person on the committee, so I'm not speaking for. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Great.
I think that would be a great.
How long would the show run?
About 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Well, that time of year, even if you start at 7, or even 7:30, you'd be out.
Yeah.
True.
We did mention transportation from some of those other parking areas for some of the patrons to maybe be in golf carts or something, but just to get them down into the park a little bit easier. That was also an option.
Restroom facilities are pretty bleak there.
Yeah, we thought about the porta johns.
Mentioned that too.
And those are things that we would hope maybe the city would spearhead so that we don't have to worry about renting porta potties or whatever, but I don't know, maybe that could be something that would come from the city. Same thing, we talked about, probably we would need police presence. Not a heavy-handed, but it might be helpful to have an officer on duty to kind of help with security. It is a long walk from the parking lot back in there. That is a negative about doing theater there, but yeah.
Commissioners, what is your inclination toward fee waiver?
Does this open the can of worms with Pride or Cinco de Mayo or Juneteenth also requesting fee waiver?
It does open the can of worms, you're correct. A little bit different in that it's an event that, these folks are proposing to put on that sometimes cities do put on. As a cultural. So,
Do we have a policy of any kind?
not really. We're gonna talk about here next when we get to the pickleball courts item. The distinction that we're gonna find there is that is something we're characterizing as a city event. So we wanted to take this on, the DDA by analogy has DDA sponsored events and DDA partnered events that they do each year. The ones that are their own events, obviously, we don't charge them fee for them. We wanted to take this under our wings, so to speak, and make it a city event. volunteer assistance, that would be the logical way to make a distinction.
I think being a new event, new activity, and Adrian, I would be inclined to waive the fee for the first year and then see how it goes. And maybe if it is something that the DDA or the city wants to take on and be a part of in the following years, then we bring it under the umbrella. If not, then they have to raise the fees. Just like any other event has to raise.
Is there any idea, or what was your thought given about the free will offering, like a donation? You're not gonna, because I don't see how I could sell tickets to that.
No, we're not.
We never planned for it to be a ticketed event. It's,
But you know how oftentimes you.
But
go
we did,
someplace and-
yeah, we talked
Would
about
accept
having
donations.
it.
Pardon?
We would accept donations.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure, we could do that.
Yeah.
Shakespeare did himself. We could do that. We could pass the hat. That would make it more historically accurate.
Well, in talking to these guys too, I think the hopes are that it will be successful and want to do it every year, and something that the city would really want to embrace, because bringing people here, and if it does happen at First Friday, maybe slide the time a little bit. Because it'll stay open. The sunlight will be late, probably in August, as late as it's going to get. First Friday starts at 5, usually starts winding down around 7:30, so something that started at 7 in the park probably wouldn't disrupt that much at First Friday, I wouldn't think. But yeah, I mean, it's been very successful in Livonia, and the hope is it'll be successful here and draw many of the same people that come from out of town to the Croswell, and same kind of patrons. But a free event, bring your lawn chair and put your blanket on the ground.
Is the Adrian City Band? They're under our umbrella, right? So they don't pay a fee for that, do they?
Jay did charge them fee for the.
we didn't charge him a fee last year for the pavilion.
So in some ways, I see it a lot in relation.
I mean,
That
that's
kind
a
of-
good analogy. I don't know that I would say they're necessarily fully under our umbrella. It's been going on a long time.
Right.
We pay them a stipend that goes for the director. We kind of think handle it financially. They're not technically on there.
Intermission, refreshments, or you're encouraging people to bring their own snacks and things?
We're encouraging people to bring their own food, and we're not going to go out and solicit vendor trucks.
Right.
But if some organization in Adrian, a restaurant, wants to put a truck up there and sell food, we wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't know what the city rules and regulations are for that.
Yeah, you could have food trucks.
Intermission's a great time to pass the hat too. It works. We did it all the time in London when we did it there, so. Worked the same way. Intermission is a great time to pass the hat.
Responsibility.
Another reason to have a police officer there though, so that you can.
But we are doing Shakespeare, so we can't get that person into the show, because he's putting some of the 20th century work that we did. So,
Cleanup and things like that, have you made any plans for, if you bring a lot of people in over, from the first night, second night, you're gonna have some responsibility cleaning things.
And that's something that we, again, are hoping that maybe the city would, through their programs and their people, would take care of emptying the garbage cans and cleaning up. And not that we certainly wouldn't help or do, and certainly we're gonna clean up our own, our own props and costumes and things. We obviously can't leave it there overnight, but as far as cleaning the park afterwards, that would be a city function, but I don't know.
I would think that if I could step in, it might be something for us to police the grounds and have the city help us remove the trash that's in the cans. Might be a way to meet halfway.
Yeah.
We ask other people to clean up their spaces when they use spaces, and then we come in and help with the trash removal.
Being the person that emptied every garbage can at Pride last year. Again, that comparison of other organizations are responsible for emptying the trash cans. and getting that trash to the dumpster.
Is there a dumpster at the park?
We do not believe so.
So again, just adding context, if this was something that you would approve or you would approve, that would work for us, and then I expressed this in our first meeting, is you're talking the weekend now. And so then what that does is force me to ask my staff, do you want to come and work overtime, which they're not obligated to. If they choose to do that, does come at a cost to my overtime budget, and again, it's kind of you kind of saying yes, approval of this much, because it could potentially, right, I have to bring in 3 or 4 people, on a weekend, it's a time and a half plus plus the overhead, so that hourly wage does start to go up there, so that would be something to think about and use as part of your decision making process, that if we were to do that, that does come at a cost to our parks budget.
Well, it's something that, if it doesn't work if it doesn't work for the city to do it, we can organize people to do things like that. It's not like we're against it.
Yeah, I guess
Getting a sense of what the city can do.
your question actually brings me to a question, and I guess what we would need is some kind of, what are the city's rules and regulations for using that space? So we would know what we have to be in compliance with, and then we would figure out how to do that,
Right.
how to be in compliance with it.
Yeah, I think we can meet with the administrative and discuss those sorts of things. I think we're kind of past the time we slotted for you. We got a bunch of things on the work session agenda tonight, but I think you heard some openness to a fee waiver for your first year. So if that helps with your planning effort, it seems like there's enthusiasm for the idea. So we're happy to continue to engage with you at staff level. See if we can work through the issue.
Right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you all for your
Yeah.
time, thank you.
I'm excited.
All right, number 2, Jeremiah. Pickleball comes first.
Good evening. So the first topic that I have for you tonight is the pickleballs and pickleball courts, and exactly kind of where we're going with that has nothing to do with the construction. A couple of months ago, Carrie Hartley from Habitat and I were talking, and she was just talking about potential ways of coming to the city, using space in the park, and just kind of ways to generate revenue, and things as part of their projects. And so we began talking pickleball. And we talked about just the resounding success of our current pickleball course that we have out at Heritage Park. And so, currently our policy is we don't rent the courts out, right? They're used morning, noon, and night, by residents, and it's really exciting to see. And I think it sticks to the nature of what we're doing, is wanting to provide, our citizens with something to do. A wide range of folks use that. So I just find it prudent that we don't get in the habit and start adopting a policy just yet in regards to renting them out, because literally at the pace that we've been going, I've had so many phone calls and emails that essentially we could shut down our pickleball courts and residents wouldn't be able to use them because there's some sort of for-profit event going on. However, in this situation, Karen and I were talking, and I pitched the idea of what if we had a pickleball tournament if the funds raised there stayed in the city of Adrian for city of Adrian. She said, absolutely. So we started kind of brainstorming and thinking this out and looking at dates and things of that nature. We made some progress, and so we wanted to come tonight to first kind of inform you, let you know this is something that we would like to pursue, if you're okay with that. But again, really this partnership kind of developed, really going, how can we help support folks in our area? And obviously, being a city of Adrian employee, I said, well, I have an idea. Let's focus on the city of Adrian and guarantee that the funds stay here for a city project. She said 100%. So I want to introduce Carrie Hartley from Habitat for Humanity. She's just going to kind of add a little bit, and there you go.
Hello, everyone. Yes, he's basically stolen all of my thunder, but that's okay. Habitat for Humanity, everybody knows build houses. We build about 1 to 1.5 houses a year. Some years it ends up 2. Either way, when we build a home, we serve a family. That's wonderful. What people don't always know about Habitat is that we also have a repair program. Last year, we partnered with the Federal Home Loan Bank, privately raised funds, and others to do over $200,000 worth of repairs. Approximately 75% of those were within the city of Adrian. Now, our repair program, people don't know about it because we haven't talked about it a lot. We want to blow the lid off this. We want to tell as many people as possible. But we are already getting an influx of repair applications with it just being quiet. So we see this as an opportunity to partner with the city and also bring back some kind of feel-good things to Habitat. Youth can't do construction. You know, some people, that's just not their thing. We haven't had that kind of family feel-good event since the Pasty Project, for those of you who remember that. Pasties are not coming back for many reasons. It's not feasible, so there's that. But we would like to find a feel-good event that does good things for the city. 100% of funds raised at the event would stay within the city of Adrian to do repairs. We service repairs. It's not, you know, the pretty things, it's the critical things. It's accessibility for senior citizens who need wider doorways and safe bathrooms. It's heat. We serviced a woman last year who had not had heat in her home for over 2 years. This year we had a family, it'd been 4 years. That is a dignity issue. That is a safety issue in the state of Michigan. We want to serve more of those people. This event would not only allow us to serve more people through repairs than we currently are, but also have that feel-good feeling. Do something that isn't currently done. Everybody has a golf tournament. Golf tournaments are great, but we don't want to do what's already happening. We want to do something new and something fresh. So pickleball was an idea that our development committee had floated by. Jeremiah also had the idea. So it just seems a really great opportunity for partnership.
So as Jeremiah said, more FYI, just so you're aware of what's going on with this and the distinction that we talked about earlier. That it is kind of a partner development with the Parks and Recreation Department, fulfilling their mission there, but if you have any questions?
Is there a limit of number of teams that you can have?
They have some wiser pickleball people than myself have told me that we can get as many as 12 teams through on a court an hour. So there are 6 courts.
Yeah, there's 6 courts. So we're looking, so
So,
again,
yeah.
kind of, this is one of those things, talking about this partnership and wanting to do this and pursue this, is that essentially we would have to shut down the courts for a day, right? So if you were, you know, the commission, you approve that and are okay with that, that really allows us to expand. I would like to see anywhere from 40 to 50 teams. But in order to do that, we do need to shut down the courts for the day. And so that's really one to come and inform you of what we'd like to do, but 2, to get your approval to do this, because again, that currently isn't our policy to rent things out for private tournaments and things of that nature. However, as we talked and really kind of looked at the significance of what this would do, especially keeping the funds in the city of Adrian, this is something that we wanted to pursue for this event.
I think if, similar to what Matt said, if there's a policy that maybe could be developed, because I know Rotary is interested in building a pavilion out there with the Sam Buford Wood Shop. And again, they would fund that through the tournament, or through the concept of a tournament. That was part of the Rotary Noon Club strategic plan that was this last year. So there's a lot of interest in both of these things, and I don't see why both of those events or more could take place.
I think it's great. I'm sure the number is going to be bigger than 40 or 50. I hope, once they find out where the money's going, what they're doing, and sponsors and all those other things, I think it's a great idea.
And again, you know, if you haven't been out there in the summertime, so our work day starts at 7 a.m. So my employee that's out there, Doug, folks are waiting at 6:30 6:45 for him to unlock the doors. By 7, they're on the courts. And they're cool essentially to 11:30, 12. There's a little bit of a lull in the middle of the day when it's getting hot. But then by 3:30, they're packed until dark. Doug has to kind of give them a friendly shove out of the park once the sun goes down. So I highly anticipate this being a well-used event, and I've already got a pickleball outfit ready. I'm in it, so I'm excited. I'm excited.
I would just like to make sure that we just signage it to death. Post it
Yes.
everywhere so that people aren't upset and they're going to come, you know, when something like this happens.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Great idea.
That's not your comments? Yeah, thank you for that. You can stay up. You're next too, Jeremiah.
All right, next item on the agenda, cameras. Every day, myself and our staff, we work to our utmost capability, provide clean and safe parks. Give people opportunities to take their families, and really, if someone just wants to go to a park and just enjoy the parks, we want people back in the city of Adrian parks, and I believe we have made a ton of progress over the last 2 years that I've been here. And I credit our staff entirely for that. However, one of the struggles that we've seen, and I know it's been here before I arrived, but in the 2 years that I've been here, we're having a ton of issues in the parks. A lot of it is vandalism, crime, and a number of other issues that are really starting to become very problematic. Just off the top of my head, I was talking with the staff, we were looking at things earlier today. I'd say in the 2 years I've been here, I could easily, off the top of my head, total anywhere from probably $8,000 to $10,000 in things that we've had to repair over the last 2 years, right? These are unexpected costs that we have to find, you know, essentially the money for something, right? We have to start moving things around, and it's, you know, it's also, well, first and foremost, it's a public safety issue. Crime, you know, we have the vandalism, you know, my staff has threats lobbed at them constantly. They'll come back and report it, but a lot of times when I'm able to call the chief or the sergeant on duty to get somebody down there to address the issue, usually folks have scurried on through and things of that nature. So, if you travel to metro parks in Toledo, Ann Arbor, a lot of other places around the country, security cameras are essentially there to protect citizens, right? And that's what we want to do. And we also want it to be a deterrent. Our bathrooms are destroyed. It's kind of a religious act that's going on. It's every day, it's every week. We have to shut the bathrooms down. We have to get contractors to come in. And it's just becoming, it's tiresome, it's expensive. But again, it takes away from what we're trying to do. We want people to go into the parks, to feel safe, to have clean spaces. And it's tough. We'll go down there on a Tuesday afternoon. The park's clean, mowed, looking good. Staff leaves at 4 o'clock. Someone comes in and destroys it. And then that entire evening, we have residents going down to the park and they walk up on, you know, vandalism all over the walls. And they're going, what's the city doing? Why aren't you guys taking care of this? You don't have staff that works 24 hours, right? And so, but this is becoming an expensive issue. But most importantly, you know, we have conversations with people where they say we don't feel safe. Understand that, and I do my best within the role that I can do that. And so we started talking with Chief Emmerich, Greg and myself. We really started throwing this idea around that we think there's some areas that we need to address, and potentially having cameras would help us with that. So once that discussion happened, it was late summer. Our director of IT, Gordy McKinney, and I met and we started talking. And so over the last 6 months, really, Gordy has been relentless in reaching out to different companies, looking at different softwares, things that we think could help us, could help Chief Emmerich in situations where we need to be able to pull cameras in the instances of crime and vandalism and things of that nature. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gordy. He's got a little presentation to kind of highlight what we think would work. Some of our parks, we're talking about Island, Comstock, Riverside, and Trestle. Those are really our main areas. We're really, if you will, under siege. So I'll turn it over to Gordy.
Okay.
like Jeremiah said, we brought in several companies that gave us proposals for how we want to cover the parks. The one that we're going to go through right now is the one that I feel is the best coverage for the best price that we can get for these types of cameras. This is Island Park. And you can see that we've got, two separate areas where there are cameras. This is what they call their optional plan because we're covering the back baseball diamonds as well as the front of the park where the playground equipment is. This gives us good coverage. It allows us to see the areas where people are vandalizing equipment like that. We have a quote from DNP Communications to run internet connections to all of these different locations. The prices on that were very reasonable. It's about $90 a month for internet at each one of those locations. So for what we're getting with them, I think that's reasonable. They're our internet provider. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, this is Comstock Park. And our plan there is to set up two separate locations for cameras. One up by the gazebo area and the other set of cameras down on the riverside so that we can get all of the areas that are low as well as high in that general area. Okay, go to the next slide. Again. Next. Next slide. Next slide. One more slide. There we go. This is a presentation that was put together by the camera company through some information that I had given them. That's why we're skipping several of these slides. This is Trestle Park. And again, this is what they call their deluxe setup for cameras. The intention there is to cover the band shell as well as both sets of gazebos. On the north side gazebo, they want coverage down that walk area where the park, where it goes back into the woods. We also want to be able to cover the restrooms that are there, as well as that baseball diamond that's down in that area by the restrooms. Okay, next slide. Yeah, okay, and this is Riverside Park. Down at the bottom of the screen, that camera that's facing, right now it's facing the ice rink. Okay, we've got that actually installed right now as a trial camera, just so we could see what the software did and how it all functions. So I've got access to that myself right now. The other area we would be covering is the baseball diamond restrooms over on the other side of the park. What this software allows us to do is we can link all 32 of these cameras together. There's a total of 32 cameras through all 4 parks. We can link them all together so that we can watch them all at one time if we choose to. They record motion for up to 30 days on the camera itself. And then the information is stored on the cloud so we can go back even further than that. But the intent here is that we can track if we have a person of interest that we think caused some damage at some point, we catch them on video doing something. We can look through all of our cameras and see where that person was at any point in time. So that we can kind of maybe get an idea of where they went or what they were doing and maybe get a visual for the police department to use to track people down. There's several other things that this can do as well. It can identify vehicles. We can search if someone says, hey, I watched someone run through the park with a backpack on. We can tell it to search for a backpack and it'll show us every individual that had a backpack going through that park at any given time. So things like that. This company is a part of the REMC bid system, which means it's kind of like the My Deal that we have, where they have a set contract price, education, as well as government facilities.
So we wouldn't be bidding this out, is what you're saying?
We wouldn't have to bid it out.
Okay, because
We-
it's part of our government
Yeah.
entities?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we did call in some local companies to try to bid on this. Within Adrian and that sort of thing. They didn't even respond to us after they came and looked at our parks. We had other companies respond that were actually more expensive than the system we're looking at. And then we had other companies that just wanted to give us the infrastructure so we could set up our own cameras. But we could go in and set up our own cameras, but the problem with doing that is we wouldn't get the capabilities of this software. This ties everything together. It makes it all uniform so that if we want to look at something, we can. And, we can go into the police department and we can set up a monitor so that they have access to all 32 cameras all on the screen all at one time. So they could, glance at it every now and then if they wanted, just to see what's going on live in the parks.
So how much?
Okay. This package is $88,000 for 10 years. That covers the use, the cameras and all the licensing needed for 10 years. The cameras are under a warranty for the 10-year price, where if something breaks, they'll replace it for us throughout the course of the 10 years. It doesn't include if somebody went and got a camera out or something like that. Obviously, they're not gonna cover that necessarily under their warranty, but they may help us with some of that.
How does that break down over the course of the 10 years? Is it all upfront or is, and if it's upfront, how do we know that they're gonna last? If they're gonna be around for 10 years.
These are all good questions. If we pay for the 10-year package, it's all upfront. They've given us a document that says if they don't make it for 10 years, that they will give us all the access rights to the cameras and the software for good, permanent at that point. Obviously, there would be no warranty on the cameras if they broke or something like that. That would also give us the ability to use other software if we chose to use other software with their cameras. They have other packages, other ways they can bill us for this. We could go on an annual contract with them where we pay for the cameras up front, and then every year we pay an annual license fee, but that's going to be more expensive than the 10-year package. And we can do a 3-year or a 5-year as well.
What's the camera resolution?
It's 4K. Yeah, that's 4K camera.
How much did you say you roughly, I know you didn't say exactly, but how much you think you're spending a year? Is it like $4,000 a year?
I'd say in 2 years, we're easy, we have to be right around 10,000 we spend. So we're anywhere from 4 to 5 in the 2 years that I've been here with the city of vandalism and cost that it we've been put into this, so.
It'd be nice to get signage into the parks
Well,
too, to make sure that everyone knows that.
Other issues.
that
So
they
that, I
are
mean,
being seen.
in addition to what you're paying, you're also frequently having the restrooms closed.
Correct, that's the other thing, so when someone comes in and rips the toilet off the wall, we have to shut the bathroom down, and then we're beholden to the contractor who, needs to come in and replace that. Well, we're confronted with situations where the contractor's like, I'll do this, we'll make the call on a Monday morning. They're like, we can't get there until Friday or to the following day because they have a plethora of appointments and things that they need to do and jobs that they need to finish. So we're confronted with that situation all the time where we do have to close bathrooms down. And then it does take a day or two for us then to call to get a porta john brought in and things of that nature. So there's tons of downtime as well. And, I'll use Island Park for an example. Monday through Thursday, there is, I'd say 500 to 700 people down there for Little League. So the park is jammed with all those kids and parents and park goers and watchers. Well, what happens when we shut the parks down? You have a couple of porta johns and we can all kind of go down that road and know what that means, right? So take the cost out where there's a big inconvenience for park users.
Is there, then, I'm assuming, on the restrooms in the major areas, would it be similar to the trails into the park? Would those be covered and the trails out so you can kind of identify where they came in at, or if they drove in, license plate reading technology?
Yes, and so if you remember, Gordy was talking about, we'll go back to what out of Trussell Park. We want to set up views that would take us to the pavilion up top there that leads, kind of connects right to. We want to have angles from all those different areas. So really, and what Gordy, you know, and I credit him, what we had so many site visits is we identified those areas, the trail that are connecting where we know we have issues, and really kind of put the vendors to a test and saying, this is what we need and what we need coverage. And so they spent hours and hours measuring, bringing some of their stuff in and looking at different areas. So we really did our best to kind of identify the specific thoroughfares, essentially, one big, the trail, along with those high used areas. So that was, we just didn't go in and walk in and say, I'll just throw up some cameras. We really identified as a department as a whole, with Gordy's help, in identifying the areas that we have our biggest issues in, and really then ask the vendor to kind of address those.
So what's our ask for right now? This is something we would bring back, package on, if the commission is interested in going this route.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think what makes sense, and from what we've gotten and talked with Gordy, that we would like to pursue this option, 32 cameras. We feel it really sews up those 4 parks and those 4 areas. Obviously we can cut down the cameras, but even again, those 32 are gonna do, we believe, a fantastic job in helping us with this. So we would like to move forward with this task for this package and for these 32 cameras. Obviously, there's different packages, and you can cut that in half, cut the cameras in half. But again, it's I don't think we're really doing our due diligence at that point, rolling 16 cameras up. It's almost futile. So 88,000, allowing us to put 32 cameras in those hot spots would be our ask.
Vince, is this information that you could proceed being able to use?
Absolutely. I mean, we tried a new approach last spring through summer, and we got, maybe some of you got calls back, but we were out on the trails almost every day. Definitely increased our budget to get people out, but it certainly had an effect. Maybe if we scale back the manpower and add the cameras as part of a more complete solution, cost effective.
I would hope this would be a real deterrence from the very beginning with signage and people knowing, but also prosecuting. I hate to load your docket even further, but I would think that I would like to see caught and taken care of for this kind of damage that they're doing.
But ultimately, that's what we're going for, is this to be a deterrent, right? Obviously, in those instances, hold people accountable, but I want families, I want residents, I want citizens back in the park to be able to say, hey, there's only so much I can do.
That's why I mentioned the signage.
This would be a huge help, and we believe it would be a deterrent. Helping us get through.
We owe that to our citizens. They're paying for the parks. Not, for them not to be able to use them is just not right. We
Let them know
need to do whatever necessary to make sure our community can use the parks.
And expandability, or we can come back and 32 more.
Easy.
Yeah. Letting the citizens know that we're doing this with signage, I think, is a very important thing.
And then, you know, hopefully next year we'll have the conversation of how we can make our bathrooms presentable and have doors on them and that sort of thing.
Any concern?
No.
No.
Bring us a resolution.
Right, we'll figure it out.
Quality of life.
Thanks, Gordy. Last scheduled item is the TAP grant resolution we have on, to authorize us to apply for that. I just wanted to make sure you understood what the numbers we've talked about this project many times, but we only just very recently here got the precise numbers. So the project breaks down into participating costs and non-participating costs, and we kind of put this in the resolution, but you had to do a little bit of math to understand it. So just to be clear, the total amount as designed of participating construction costs would be $7,300,071 and change. We're proposing a 25% match, which we're told by MDOT will be very competitive, given that we're a economically challenged community. So that leaves the amount eligible of the participating construction cost for the TAP grant. And so the amount we're asking for, $5,528,708.75. There are other non-participating costs to the tune of about $1.1 million. These are things that aren't eligible for the grant, like street lights and trees and things of that nature. For the total project, and then there are soft costs, which are not grant eligible, basically the design and construction inspection. The total project is $10,642,000 and change. Again, that TAP grant would get us about half of that, $5.5 million. We would have a local share of $5.1 million that would come from the enhancement grant that we received for this purpose. So no general fund money is going into this at all. Still plenty of enhancement grant monies left to do our other major project that we have control over at this point, which is the main lane work, the demolition of this building, the creation of town square, and pop-up retail space along there. So that's what we're asking you to approve on tonight's consent agenda. We put it on the consent agenda because we've talked about it many times, but those are the precise numbers. So I wanted to go over for you so you understand. Happy to answer any questions about that. Though we're running short on time.
When will we know if we receive the grant approximately?
If you, oh no.
July
One.
July of this year,
July.
but then construction will be 26.
There's,
Well, maybe 25. Maybe
Potentially, but not
potentially.
more likely.
so there's the open house on this week related to the Winter Street. That is
Yep.
that this.
That's just one more piece of public engagement in support of our grant application. So we will have views of the design up on the screens out in the chambers here, and we'll be here to answer questions if anybody drops in for you.
And is there still time to make sure if someone comes up with a great idea that wasn't thought of, that can still be incorporated into that, or is it set in stone?
Probably not before the grant application is gonna
Right, that's what I
happen,
meant,
but you know, down the road, there are other ways to change the plans after we apply, yes.
Okay, just making sure that that
Particularly if they're not participating.
is true public input.
Is that this Thursday at 5?
Yes,
Thursday?
Mhm.
7 o'clock here.
Any other questions about that? No? You wanna
All
have
right.
some public comment?
At this time, we will begin public comment. We will begin inside the city chambers first, then we will open it up to participants. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, which you will hear if you do exceed that time. And just as a reminder, and to reiterate, you must state your name and your full address.
Hello, Joshua Frank, 141 1/2 South Main Street. So I sat here listening to the presentation about surveillance in the parks, and I had some questions. Really, is there data backing up the fact that putting these cameras in place is gonna prevent vandalism? Definitely make the parks clean. If the public is going to be surveyed, we deserve to see exactly. Here, dimension of the homeless population. In the city. And Ben stepped out, but by listening. And what does he expect to see on these cameras? Like, you get a kid that's wearing a dark hoodie, he tags a sign. You're never gonna find this kid. You're not gonna know who did it. You're just gonna know that, hey, the sign got spray painted, so we gotta go out there and clean it. What you are gonna see are people sleeping on benches or people sheltering in place. To me, this seems like this purpose, this whole presentation is you guys just want the homeless to disappear. They're people and they exist. It's things like this, it's just, I'm really disappointed when the city takes actions like this. Homelessness is not a crime. Say.
At this time, I will now open it up to all Zoom participants. For the record, please state your name and full address as well.
Ken Tokars, 110 South. Whenever possible, I take advantage of public comment opportunities to document concerns about perceived inequities and how the city of Adrian operates specific to the allocation of staffing and financial resources for East Adrian residents and properties. Tonight's agenda will document two situations where East Adrian residents and properties are subjected to an equitable funding and resource allocation on the part of the city of Adrian. You are quite aware of the fact that East Adrian residents do not have representation on city commission. So it is my ask for the commissioners to be impartial and equitable when casting their votes tonight and offer the following. Last year, the city of Adrian applied what could be summarized as a coat of watered down paint on Maumee Street from Broad East to the city limits when it needed a full rebuild. Curb and gutter that should have been replaced was left in place. Driveway aprons that should have been rebuilt were left in place, creating recessed areas where water puddles, freezes, thaws, and prematurely degrades the subbase. Maumee Street from Broad Street to the end of the city should have been held off until there was adequate funding to do it right. And if this was West Side, the street work would have not have taken place. It is time to reflect as Adrian City Commissioners and ask yourself, if Maumee Street residents were treated any differently from the residents on Maumee Court, who at the slightest dips had their street redone. We are told that the city of Adrian did not have money for Maumee Street, but somehow the city came up with money to purchase land tonight, and you will approve capital improvements for a parking lot on Church Street. The city did not have money for Maumee Street, but somehow came up with money for Maiden Lane. The city did not have money for Maumee Street, but somehow came up with money for Winter Street. The city did not have money for Maumee Street, but was able to come up with funding for barricades. The city did not have money for Maumee Street, but came up with $70,000 to stabilize the downtown building. The city did not have money for Maumee Street, but came up with $300,000 for pickleball courts. And now you're going to have an event to help a lady who does not have heat, but you won't do the right thing and fix her streets. My ask is for this Adrian City Commission to take ownership of the mistakes that were made specific to Maumee Street from Broad to the city limits. Do the right thing and make the required budget amendments necessary to remove the asphalt that was installed last year, replace required curb and gutter, replace driveway aprons, and do right by Adrian residents who live on the east side of Adrian and pay taxes. Thank you.
Ashley Cavazos Frank, 141 and a half South Main Street. I just wanted to say I love the idea of Shakespeare in the park. Like that's such a cool. I would see something that you don't really see or expect in Lenawee County. Like I love that idea so much. The collaboration and cooperation from the city as an organizer for Pride the last 2 years was a very interesting conversation to witness. And that's all I'll say on that.
Hello, this is Jeanette Hennigan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it my?
Yes, you just
Okay.
need to, you need to state your address, please.
Okay, I hopefully you will allow me to decline giving my address because of personal safety. I've had different threats. You can look on the tax rolls and see that I do pay taxes in the city and live in the city, but I need to protect my personal safety. If you could allow me to
I know,
not.
unfortunately, that is the policy. I do apologize, but that we do need the full address.
Okay, I will put my statements in writing and send it to all of the city commissioners as well as the newspaper. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no more public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
We already had exhausted in here, but you can speak out there, okay? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned and we will begin out in the chambers at 7:10. I call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for February 5th, 2024. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Benke,
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry, absent, and Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
All commission members present with the exception of Commissioner Castleberry.
May I get a motion to excuse Commissioner Castleberry?
So move.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Benke,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Motion approved by unanimous vote.
May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Miller with a second from Commissioner Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Benke,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts. Yes. Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Motion approved by unanimous vote.
At this time, I'm going to be reading two proclamations. The first proclamation I'm going to read is for Black History Month, and it will be displayed at City Hall on the main floor outside the mayor's office on an easel for everyone to see throughout the month. But in addition to that, this week, there is the NAACP has a group that is coming in to set up an entire display for Black History Month as well. So the proclamation will be displayed along with that. And I just encourage everyone to come to City Hall and to see the display that is going to be set up there on that first floor lobby area. Whereas the NAACP has led the struggle for freedom and equality for all Americans for over 90 years. And whereas as a result of the efforts of the NAACP, the barriers which have long divided people along racial and religious lines have been torn down. And whereas, as a result of efforts of the NAACP, the city of Adrian has become a better place for all of its citizens to work, study, learn, and live. Now, therefore, I, Angela Sword Heath, Mayor of the City of Adrian, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 as Black History Month, and call upon all people of goodwill and lovers of justice to join me in reaffirming our support of the Lenawee County chapter and the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization, the NAACP. And after it has been displayed in City Hall, it will be delivered to the NAACP as well. The other proclamation that will be read is dated for April because that is when Arbor Day is. However, in order for us to receive the money, this is a part of the process, and that this proclamation must be read in the month of February in order for everything to be done in a timely manner for us to get grant funding. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil caused by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and our source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Adrian has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 47 years. Now, therefore, I, Angela Sword Heath, Mayor of the City of Adrian, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Adrian, and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to endorse our city's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Now moving on to our consent agenda. May I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Banky with a second from Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
and Commissioner Banky.
Yes.
Motion approved by unanimous vote.
Moving on to our regular agenda. Resolution R24-002 is from engineering. It is a resolution to authorize a budget amendment for the extension of the Church Street parking lot. May I get a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments in relation to this resolution?
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. This will definitely be a great benefit, DDA properties. And I would just ask that you remember when the time comes to create a special assessment district for 40% of the costs of this parking lot for those properties that will be benefited. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment in regards to this resolution. Is this in regards to this resolution or general public comment?
Dan Alcorta. What area in the Church Street are you talking about that I missed here? And then the address area on Church?
We'll see if the commissioner comments will cover that for you when we get to commissioner comments. Okay, thank you. Hearing no more public comment, before we begin commissioner comments, can you address the exact location, City Administrator Greg Elliott, please?
It's on the east side of the current Church Street public parking lot, basically behind the pharmacy building.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Sorry, I'm looking for a cough drop. Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Yes.
Resolution approved by unanimous vote.
Moving on to general public comment. We will begin inside the city chambers first. After we have exhausted all public comment within the chambers, we will then open it up to all Zoom participants. Just to remind you, there is a 3-minute time limit that you will see on the screen. And just to reiterate that there you need to not only state your name, but your full address. We will begin now.
My name is Dorothy Schmidt, and I'm at 428 Elm Street. And I don't know how public this is. I have tried to deal with the problem over and over, but it obviously has become a public problem. I tried to call the city today and tried to make a telephone connection with several departments. I could not do that. Chris said that, yes, she could connect me. Didn't follow up to see if I was connected, and I was not. And I have asked twice to speak to people sitting on the board, have not been able to communicate at all in any direction. That's problem one, okay? The other problem is why I called. Last night, I had a torrential shower of tree bark falling from 2 dead trees that are against my fence and belonging to Mr. and Mrs. Lindeman next door. Now, the Lindemans put so much effort into redoing that house. They resided the house and took down almost 10 trees because that many trees were growing on that 50-foot lot. I had a dead tree up against my garage for a number of years. We took that down. Whatever was infecting that tree spread to the next tree along the fence. And last night, there goes the 3rd tree. Okay. It peels the bark off. I assume in my head that it's a chemical that has been used in the past to make telephone poles. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. No one has diagnosed it. The recreation department says we can't go on private property to do anything for it. I don't know how to address issues to the city when I can't complete a telephone call.
Your time is
Or
up. Thank
can't
you.
walk in an office and find somebody there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Your time is up. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
So good evening. Mayor Sword and council persons, commissioners. Today you received a.
Can you state your name and
Oh, I'm
address,
sorry,
please?
Trudy McSorley. I live at 244 Renfrew Court. I'm sorry. I apologize. So today you received a correspondence from me via email regarding the snow and ice removal in the city of Adrian. Article 3, section 74 to 100 A and B clearly cites the fact that snow and ice removal should be removed from city streets, not just downtown, within 24 hours. You're living in the same city I am, and if you walked on any of the sidewalks, you would know that that just didn't happen this year. And it has not happened in previous years. This year, I resorted to using a walking stick with a spike on the end of it so that I could walk the streets. In all cases, it is becoming a clear hazard in the city. 2 days after the last snowstorm, a friend and I were going for lunch. We were driving down Dennis Street, and a gentleman was trying to cross the street. And he couldn't get over the mound that the city clears when they, along the sidewalks. And he did not have access to the street. And everyone in the car said, "Oh dear." And I got out to help him across. The gentleman was handicapped. He had cerebral palsy and couldn't make it over the mound of snow, and had already walked the whole city sidewalk full of ice and snow. It is clearly a hazard, and I don't understand at all. And most of us don't, why the city ordinances are not enforced. We have a snow emergency policy in the city. Again, what happens to it? Why, the streets are clear, but the people live in neighborhoods and they have to have access to the street sidewalks. Mail delivery persons are put in hazardous situations. And it is just simply a question in my mind, and most people's mind, that enforcement just isn't happening. And it's a question we have. So why have ordinances if we're not going to enforce them? And why are we living in a community that doesn't care enough for all of us? I'm not talking about you people. I'm talking about all of us, for each other, that we would want to make it a safer place for this community. So thank you. And I hope that you will address the fact that these ordinances are just simply not followed.
Hello, my name is Robert Duke. I live at 364 April Lane here in the city of Adrian. I'm going to piggyback on that. Part of what sparked me to be here is some stuff the Planning Commission is working on. And that's not before you guys here today, but maybe here shortly, but it comes around with ordinances and stuff they want to do, which has sparked my attention with that. And I'm going to piggyback on that. We're not enforcing the ordinances we have, especially on the east side. And things like that. Just what's being mentioned, snow cleanup, those kind of things. It's not done. I do my yard, my neighbors don't. There's trash, there's other stuff. They want to bring about putting in new ordinances to control things that they don't like. That's my other thing, is representation. Most of your boards come from West Side people. That's what they want to address. I hear things like they want it to be like Ann Arbor. They don't care what the residents say. That's what they're saying in their meetings. And you folks here are responsible for the people on those boards, the Planning Commission. For one, I think that needs to be looked at, representation across the city. And I think before we start putting in new ordinances about how we use our yards and how we do that, we enforce what we have, because we're not doing that clearly. Just driving around town. And when I start hearing people want to bring up personal agenda items and things that their neighbors or things they don't like looking at, that's not the way we're supposed to be governed. We do have a whole city here, and we're not doing it. Thank you.
We will now open it up to the Zoom participants for public comment. You will see the time on your screen as well, and please state your name and full address.
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. There were many things that I wanted to talk about on the consent agenda, but I am prevented from doing that by the city. The one thing I did want to talk about was the Church Street work, and I want to make reference to some of the work that was done this past summer on Maumee Street. At Maumee and Locust, instead of just doing a straight line east-west on the street, they removed asphalt north of Locust Street and south of Locust Street, probably about 25 feet. And I was told that they had to do this in order to roll it. Now, I guess I understand that, and I'll agree, but if you go 2 blocks east to Park Street West and Park Street East, they did a straight line there. And the thing that makes it a problem is that Locust was resurfaced within the last 3 years. So they removed existing asphalt that didn't have to be removed. But then when it came to Park West and Park East on the north side of Monument Park, they did a straight line across when those roads could have been resurfaced. And then when they decided to finally have the money to do Park Street West and Park Street East, they would have had less asphalt to do. So I guess I would ask the city commissioners to take an active role, take a drive out and look at Locust, look at where they stopped and started the work, then take a look at Park and see why they didn't do that there. The last thing is, if you could also get with Matt on Locust Street on the southeast side, they came in striped. They didn't stripe correctly. That needs to get striped. I'm thinking that they didn't stripe it correctly because that part of the road should have never been removed in the first place. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments?
Yes.
Commissioner Binky?
Several comments to make tonight. First and foremost, related to the homeless population. This last month, the end of January, was the point in time count for all of Lenawee County. I want to thank Wakeem, who was involved in that count that took place. Also, the officer that's here tonight, wasn't certain of what his last name was, and Vince for helping us secure some of the teams that went out, had an officer with us, others did not. The number of community groups and volunteers that participated in this year's program made the count more successful than last year. The data that was collected will be used by HUD to help provide additional supports here to Lenawee County and to Adrian for programming and supports. An update related to the Michigan Department of Transportation and Division Street in US 223. We had that fatal accident that took place about a month ago. They will be here, MDOT, on February 7th. And we have heard through Senator Bellino's office that the turn study already shows a significant increase in the number of vehicles that are using that intersection from the last time it was used in 2018. So that hopefully will result in some positive, safer changes for that intersection. Community conversations. Thanks, Trudy, for coming out and sharing your perspective to the full commission. I had an opportunity to meet with residents this last month. 6 new residents I've never met before. In addition to the issue with plowing, there was also topics with not cleaning downtown streets, drug houses, blight enforcement, RV and boat enforcement, and then lack of community participation when it comes to car shows and organizations. I did want to also echo that the public hearing for the Planning Commission is going to take place tomorrow. So if that's of interest, I would recommend that people turn out for that. It's at 7 p.m. here. And the changes, I've talked to a number of individuals who share the same frustrations that you do as well, sir. And then lastly, what I'd like to address is I kind of heard a little bit of a conversation about policies that we have, and are there policies in place? And if a policy from a commission 20 years ago is good, how can we change that? And really, the issue that I'm specifically speaking about is addressing public participation. And while we have a policy on our books that says we need to share our address when we speak as a resident, I would never want public participation to be a choice between an individual's safety and sharing an individual's public comments. We have individuals that have addressed this board who publicly identify as transgendered, people who work in positions where telling their address, as we heard tonight, puts them in physical harm, and yet their voice is silenced. Their opportunity to email us is fine, but yet the rest of our community can never hear their voice because they are too afraid to share their address. And we must think strongly about changing that. The Open Meetings Act does not require an individual to provide an address. And I think that's something that we explore to change. Thank you.
Commissioner Roberts?
I'd like to remind everyone that have been affected by Crimson that next Monday at 6:30 at the fairgrounds, we will be having a special meeting. And we hope that you will come and we will be there to listen to you. Also, as a member of the Erase the Stigma Greg Adams 5K that will be taking place downtown again. That money goes to community mental health. That will be taking place on May 19th, right downtown. And signups are now being taken for that. So if you'd like to support community mental health, please go on Facebook and you're welcome to sign up for a 1 mile fun run and 5K run or walk. Okay, thank you.
I would like to quickly share something I received over the weekend that I will be sharing with our fire chief. It's a little bit of a good news. I like when I get these kind of messages. This person is I don't know if he still is current, but he has served on several township fire departments and wrote me to say that he had an interaction a week ago today with several of our firefighters. Had an incident, I will not go into details, but had an incident with a child needing immediate emergency services. And the mother and he was at work, and the mother and other child had to ride in a car and could not ride with the child in the ambulance. And he went on to say that the professionalism and knowledge of your organization was outstanding. I was very close behind coming from work, but I cannot express my gratitude to the city of Adrian and to the fire department for such a quality group. Thank you. So I'm going to just leave it at that, and I will send the entire message over to the fire department as I just received this over the weekend. But it's always great to hear when you have somebody else that works in that profession that was just really had a great experience with our firefighters. We also like when we hear that when they have a good experience with our police department, and we are very proud of both our fire department and our police department, and just thank them for their service, but just really wanted to share a little bit of good news, because it's always nice when you get those kind of messages on the weekend. So may I get a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.